Welcome to the second episode of Storytime with Anna. Well, we're all stuck inside. This is from an anthology called The Girl Who Helped Thunder. It is a collection of different Native American stories from all around the country. And these two stories are from the Arctic region, actually. The Beluga people is called the Beluga-Skin Bedaarka. And the second one is called The Blind Boy and the Loon from the Inuit people. Once there was a boy who grew up alone and far from any village. His family had been lost in a storm, and so he had no relatives to care for him. The boy had learned how to fish and hunt, which enabled him to survive. Each day, as his father had taught him to do, he lifted up stones. As the seasons passed, he lifted larger and larger stones until he grew very strong. Now, he said to himself, I am ready to go and seek a wife. From the skin of a beluga whale, the boy made a bedaarka and began to paddle along the coast. It was no longer summer, and so the sun hid for a long time below the horizon. But the boy did not rest, even when night came. He made up a song about his journey to find a wife that he sang, so that he would not grow tired. One night as he paddled his bedaarka along, he saw a light and pulled it into shore. A fine-looking young woman about his age stood there holding a torch. I heard your song, she said, smiling at the young man. Come with me. She took him to the house of her parents. There she fed him and showed him to a hut where he could stay. Sleep well, she told him. You want me for a wife, then you must be well rested tomorrow. Other men wish to marry me, and you must defeat them. The first challenge will be to prove who is the best hunter. When they ask you which way you will go when you hunt, make sure to say that you will go up the coast. There are more seals there. The next morning, the village elder poked his head into the hut where the young man slept. Wake up, the old man said. You have been challenged to a hunting contest. Just as the girl warned him, the young man was asked whether he would hunt up the coast or down the coast. I'll hunt up the coast, he said. As the young woman had said, the hunting was good. At the end of the day, he had brought back the most seals. He was the winner of the first contest. That night when he went back to his hut, the young man did not go to sleep. Instead, he lay there waiting. Sure enough, the young woman he wanted to marry came to the door of the hut. Listen, she whispered. Tomorrow the contest will be raced around the island and the bay and back again. The young man you'll race has never been beaten. But if you let him get far ahead of you and then sing this song, your bedaarka will have special power. Then she sang the song to him. The next morning, just as before, the young man was wakened by the village elder. Today you must race your boat, the old man said. When the young man got down to the shore, he saw his rival's boat pulled up next to his old bedaarka. His rival was taller and looked stronger than him, and his bedaarka was new and beautifully painted. A bow and arrow rested on the beach between the two boats. The one who wins this race must shoot the loser, the village elder said. The tall young man smiled at those words. Before long, you will be lying dead on the beach, he said to the young man with the Beluga-Skin Bedaarka. As soon as the race began, the tall young man in his beautiful new boat pulled far ahead, but the young man in the Beluga-Skin Bedaarka did not worry, for he remembered the song the girl had taught him. He continued until he was out of sight around the island. Then he began to sing. As soon as he did, his bedaarka turned a beluga whale and dove underwater, carrying the young man along. He went so swiftly he quickly overtook his rival. Soon he was far ahead. Before reaching the shore, the beluga swam to the surface and turned back into a boat. The young man paddled in, winning the race. When his surprised rival pulled in, the young man was waiting for him with the bow and arrow. If you won, you would have killed me, the young man said. Then he shot his rival in the leg and went up to the village for the victory feast. As she brought food to him, the young woman who was his friend whispered to him, Soon the relatives of the one you shot will ask for help. It would be wise to agree. Sure enough, his former rival's relatives soon came to see him. Our son cannot pull out the arrow, they said. So the young man went back down to the beach. He sang a small song and pulled out the arrow. He rubbed the place where the arrow had gone in, and the wound was healed. That night, just as before, the girl came to his hut before he slept and whispered to him from the doorway. Tomorrow you must defeat the best wrestler in the village, she said. I cannot help you with this. If you lose, he will throw you into the pit. Do not worry, the young man replied. I am stronger than I look. The next day, the village elder led him to the meeting house. Inside was a fenced-in area where the wrestling would take place. In the middle was a very deep pit with sharp stones on the bottom. The one who would wrestle him was twice as big as the young man. "I have never been beaten," the wrestler said. "I will throw you in this pit and all your bones will be broken." As soon as the match began, the wrestler grabbed the young man and tried to throw him. To his surprise, the young man could not be moved. When the young man grabbed hold of the wrestler, it was not half as heavy as the biggest stones he had lifted. He raised the man up over his head and carried him to the edge of the pit. But he did not throw the wrestler down onto the sharp stones. Instead, he asked him a question. "Have I won this wrestling match?" "You have won," said the wrestler, and everyone watching agreed. So the young man put his defeated rival down gently by the edge of the hole. The next day, the young man with the Beluga-Skin Bedaarka and the young woman who had helped him were married. They lived together in happiness, and their story has been passed down by the many children of their many children to this day. And our next story. There was once a boy who was a great hunter. The storage platforms around the igloo he shared with his stepmother and his sister were always filled with meat. His little sister loved him very much. His stepmother, though, was lazy. She did not like doing all the work of cleaning and skinning out and preparing the meat from the animals he brought back. "I must do something," she said to herself. So one night, when her stepson was sleeping, she took a piece of rotten whale blubber and rubbed it on his eyes. "Let him no longer be able to see," she whispered. "Let him no longer be able to see." When the boy woke up the next morning, he was blind. "Ah," his stepmother said, "now I will have to take care of a blind child. Why is my life so hard?" Because he was now blind, the boy could no longer hunt. Soon the meat in their storage platforms was all gone. All they had to eat were the hares and the ground squirrels that the little sister could catch with snares. The blind boy could not do anything but sit in his bed. His stepmother wanted to let him starve, but his little sister tried to take care of him. She brought food and water to him, but the stepmother only allowed her to give him dirty water and the toughest and smallest scraps of meat. One day they heard something scratching on the wall of the igloo. "What is that?" said the stepmother. Although he was blind, the boy still had the keen ears of a hunter. "It is a hungry polar bear," he said. "It is trying to break through the wall to eat us." And he turned toward his sister. "Give me my bow and my straightest arrow," he said. His sister ran to get his bow. She chose the straightest arrow and placed the bow and arrow in her brother's hands. "Now help me aim toward the place where the bear will break through." So the sister did as her brother said. As the bear's paw broke through the igloo wall, the blind boy released his arrow and went straight into the bear's heart, killing it. The sister and stepmother ran outside. There lay the dead bear. The stepmother grabbed the little sister by her arm and shook her. "Do not tell your brother anything," she hissed. The stepmother went back into the igloo. "You fool," she said to the blind boy. "You missed it. Now we will not have bear meat to eat." Then she skinned the bear, keeping all the meat for herself. All that she gave the boy to eat were old scraps from a ground squirrel. The next day, while the stepmother was outside cooking bear meat for herself, the blind boy heard something. It was the calling of a loon. He spoke to his little sister. "Take my hand and lead me down to the lake." The little sister did as she said. At the edge of the water, a loon was waiting for them. "My friend," the loon said, "I have seen how badly your stepmother treats you, and I have taken pity on you. Climb onto my back and put your arms around my neck." With the help of his little sister, the blind boy did as the loon said. "Now hold tight," the loon said, and it dove to the bottom of the lake, taking the boy with it and then carrying him back to the surface again. "Can you see anything?" the loon asked. "I can see a little light," the boy answered. "We must dive again," the loon said. The loon dove down again and again with the boy. Finally, after the fourth time, his sight was as good as it had been before. He thanked the loon and then went back to their igloo with his sister. When he got there, he saw the meat from the bear he had shot hanging on racks outside. "Do not tell our stepmother that I can see," he told his little sister. When the stepmother returned to the igloo, the boy pretended that he still could not see. "Stepmother," he said, "I have an idea about how we can get meat." "How is that?" she said. "You are blind. What can you do?" "I can hear beluga whales calling in the bay," he said. "Lead me down there. I can harpoon one, and you can pull it in." "Good," the stepmother said to herself. "He will get a whale for me, and I will tell him again that he has missed and keep the meat for myself." When they got to the bay, the boy handed his stepmother the end of the line that was connected to the harpoon. "Tie this as tightly as you can around your wrist. Otherwise I might lose the whale after I strike it." The stepmother did as he said, wrapping the line around her wrist 3 times and then knotting it tight. Soon the calls of the whales came closer. "I can hear them," the boy said. "Hold tight and do not let go." Then he threw his harpoon in front of the biggest of the whales. "Grab and pull," the boy called to the whale. The whale grabbed the harpoon in its mouth and pulled, dragging the stepmother into the water. Then the whale dove beneath the waves, taking the stepmother with it. The boy and his sister lived happily after that. As for the stepmother, she was never seen again. Some say that she was turned to a whale herself. As a whale, she is no longer selfish, but now provides food for the people who hunt her. The end. Have a good day, everyone.